So I'm Debangan Samanta. People fondly call me Dave over here, and I'm a solutions and offerings manager. Now, my role typically is of a consultant for our clients. So whenever a client comes to us, I figure out what is the best strategy for them to transform their QA processes. And it involves multiple things. It could be their frameworks that they are choosing, it could be the systems that they want to integrate with, or simply put, how can they achieve or receive more ROI from the entire transformation project, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be the platform, it could be the processes, it could be the services, anything that there is. My goal is to make sure our clients get the ROI. But lately, I've been working more with the product team at HeadSpin, and we are radically improving our products, our services, our entire offering. So yeah, I think you guys should stay tuned for that. We are going to do many more webinars, multiple such topics, so I'm sure we'll discuss that in the near future. But then today, the topic at hand that we have is audiovisual experience testing using AI. Now, it's a very common topic. It has been going on in the industry, but right now, again, it is trending. People are discussing it. So I thought, let's do a revision, right? Let's talk about it once more, and let's talk about the developments that has happened, what is going on, how does the industry approach it. But before we even begin about the testing part of things, I think it's important that we define what can be considered as an audiovisual experience. And we can start it by breaking down the words, right? The simplest thing, very elementary. Audio plus visual, that's audiovisual for you. Anything that involves sound and sight, hearing sight, right? It can be considered audiovisual. But here's the thing, here's the takeaway, right? Whenever we say audiovisual, what comes to our mind? I have YouTube opened over here, I have Netflix opened over here, and then I also have Cristiano's Instagram. Now, traditionally, whenever the word audiovisual experience has come up, it has to do with some kind of video or image content. Content being the key over here. So even when we talk about YouTube, right, it's video content. When we talk about Netflix, it's long form video content. And Instagram can be short form video content or maybe just static images. But end of the day, it's mostly about content, it's mostly about media that the people want to consume. And for the most part of it, yes, they are right. This is an experience and it's definitely audiovisual. But the industry is growing. We've grown from Web 2 to Web 3. We are seeing, sorry, Web 1 to Web 2, actually, Web 3, it's a different thing. But in all of these, we have seen a lot of developments that has happened, right? We have websites that are now supporting 3JS, which is a 3D framework. And if I just look at this particular screen from Duolingo, right? It's an app it's an amazing application, love it. But when it comes to audio-visual experience of Duolingo, this is not a video platform, not by any means. But then they've got these tiny animations, right? All of these characters, they are animated. Anytime you click a button, there is audio feedback, just so that you can get help to learn or answer the quizzes that the platform has. There are so many visual feedback and cues. Now, would we consider that audiovisual experiences? Of course we would, right? Because all of that helps with the engagement, right? It keeps us immersed. So if I have to answer my original question in what is audiovisual experience, I think safe to say in 2024, anything but a white screen, right? That's the best way I feel to put it across. Now, the question is, these things, they are great, right? These experiences are great, keeps the users immersed, but does it have any real usage, right? Is it required in the real world? And the simple answer is, of course, yes. Why? These experiences, they keep your users immersed. Now, what that means is your users are going to spend more time on the application, or maybe we can flip it a little bit. Your users will actually have hard time leaving your application, right? And that is, I think, sort of every product manager's, every UX, UI designer's dream. So through these experiences, we are trying to immerse the user, which means it increases our engagement, the session times. There are other metrics such as the MAU, DAO. We can talk about those metrics as well. But end of the day, what is happening is engagement goes up, retention goes up. Now, when retention goes up, it's revenue, right? We are retaining our customers, but also we are growing our customer base. So all of this flows down to one thing, and that is revenue, cash flow, right, for the application. And it is a little more important in 2024, or maybe in this particular decade, because we haven't always focused on audiovisual experiences, right? We are focusing on it right now. Usually, it used to be something that the industries like gaming and entertainment, social media. I even decided to include edtech and learning management systems. So I mean, it's not your traditional entertainment, but then again, huge media firm, right? So these industries were the ones that focused more on that. And we are going to talk about testing frameworks in a few minutes. So before we deep dive into that, right, all of these companies, they've been doing it for a while. But the question is, right, whatever they have been doing, is it important for the other industries? We've got BFSI today, we've got retail and commerce, travel and hospitality, healthcare, automotive, telco, or simply enterprise applications. Applications like, let's say, Atlassian, uh, they've got Jira and Confluence, then there's SAP, which is an ERP, right? Do these applications really care about audiovisual experience, or should they? Once again, the simple answer is yes. That is one of the reasons we are talking about it. But I've got a couple of examples, and these examples, right, really define what is happening to the industry. Initially, it started with Netflix, moving towards YouTube, and then Instagram, right? So sort of they've been able to dictate what users really want, dictate the habits of the users, right? These are all habit forming products. Now, once I'm engrossed in the user experience of Instagram, right, which is a social media application, totally different from a, let's say, a banking application, I do want the same experience. My attention span has been reduced to what now Instagram dictates, right? And we see examples of this. Indigo, it's a popular airline, it's a carrier in India. They have started incorporating short form video content on their website. Amazon, they've been doing it for a while now for almost all of their products. Any expensive flagship products, they always have that product video. But recently, they've also included features where they are creating content. Again, going back to content, but they've been doing that, right? Because that is what engages the users, allows the users to explore the product. And again, the more the engagement, the higher the chances that they add that to the cart and then obviously see to the end of it. But another interesting one is this animation that I got from PhonePe. And sorry, this is not the original PhonePe. Again, for everyone, let me just call it out. PhonePe is one of our payment applications here in India, quite popular. Now, this is not the original application. I downloaded this from PhonePe's Instagram, of course, because being a financial application there, they have blocked everything. You cannot record your screen, you cannot take screenshots, which is a good thing. Love it when my payment apps protect me. But the important part, right, to focus over here is how PhonePe had been iterating on their payment confirmation animation. And their idea was simple, right? When I scan the QR code or when I put in the digits to make the payment, right, and hit the payment button, there's a time, right? There's a time difference. It's not, it's near real time, let's call it like that, but it's still, in some cases, right, depending upon your network, it can take up to 10 to 15 seconds. And what is happening to the user really in that 10 to 15 seconds? Are they calm? Are they frustrated? Are they figuring out, is the payment going to go through? There's a lot of things going on in their mind. And that is when PhonePe's UI, UX team, of course, they're the ones they figured out that nope, we need a feedback loop, right? This loop that we started with making the payment, this needs to end on a good note. And that is when it'll just pop up right now. The final one, the one with the entire green background, not this one. Yeah, this one, right? This is the one that they finally went with, because when they actually tested it with the users, that one had the most effect, let's say, right? Where the customers almost felt relieved looking at that, right? It sort of felt rewarding that yes, you made the payment and then you waited for your 10 seconds and yep, you got the confirmation. So that is the kind of role audiovisual experience is playing today on the entire digital native scene. And time again, I've called this out. Um, we are in a digital native era. It doesn't matter what industry, your e-commerce application, your website, whatever you are, it's the digital native, right? You have to have something digital. And unfortunately, yep, there are other people who are dictating what the digital experience should be. But anyways, we're not here today to debate about what's going on or what can we do about it? I mean, sure, we can invest. But the question is, right? Our developers, our UI UX engineers, they're going to spend time and effort improving products, right? As QA engineers or even as developers, right? The question that we really have is how do we test these audiovisual experiences? Because the biggest challenge when it comes, right, and this has been going on for a while now in the industry, is an audiovisual experience that's very subjective, right? There are no metrics. For example, if I have to run a functional test, if it passes, it passes. That is it. Or if I'm even running, let's say, non-functional tests, if I'm doing load testing or if I'm doing any kind of other performance testing, I have hardcore metrics. I can see the memory usage. I can see the battery drain, the energy drain percentage. I can gather all of that data. But how do I figure out, how do I measure the audiovisual experience? And because for the most part of it, there are metrics, of course, for sure, right? Downsampling index. There are tons and tons of KPIs to actually figure it out. Resolution of the video, right? Or simply the speed the animation loads, right? There are multiple such things. But the one that we want to talk about today is perception, right? Some animations may be slow, some animations may be fast. But what's important is how your users perceive it. And thankfully, in the last decade, with the developments in the research and the development and everything, we've been able to figure this out. How do we test it? And again, the simple answer is using AI. But again, yeah, I'm not going to leave it at that. It'll be madness leaving it to simply giving your source code or just your video or your Lottie files to AI and letting it figure it out. How did it do? I mean, I hope we have something like that in the future, where we have it connected with an LLM. There's a chat GPT, you can upload stuff and then it'll tell you. But we do have a preliminary version of that. And again, when I say preliminary, I don't mean I mean to the LLM ones, but it's a pretty robust one. And we've been doing it for a while, and thanks to obviously the pioneers in the industry, right? Again, calling Netflix and Warner Bros. In fact, even Prime and all, right? So huge fans of these. They were the ones they actually figured it out. Of course, there are other players in the market who are improving it, but if I have to, bring some method to the madness, there are two major approaches that we can take. Number one being a reference-based approach, and the other one being a reference-free approach. And as the name suggests, it's very simple. For reference-based approach, we've got VMAF, it stands for Video Multimethod Assessment Fusion. I'll talk about it in a while, but it simply means that it needs a reference video. And on the other hand, we have reference free. So right now there are multiple ways you can do it without a reference. But the best one we feel, and maybe I'm a little biased being from HeadSpin, but I feel HeadSpin VMOS video mean opinion score, it's doing pretty good in the market. So those are the two approaches we take. But now the question is, how do these approaches really work, or what are these? So moving on, talking about VMAF. So VMAF, or Video Multi-Method Assessment Fusion, it's a metric end of the day, which is used to evaluate the quality of compressed video streams. And it ranges from 1 to 100. So end of the day, these are all KPIs. So these have scores. For VMAF, it's 1 to 100. Now, thanks to Netflix again, huge fan of their content, and huge fan of the research and development that they have provided to the industry. And this is all open source, by the way. So if after this session, if anyone wants to go and load this up, the source code is available on GitHub. So Netflix, yes, they developed it, and they did it to address the limitations of existing video quality metrics, such as PSNR, which stands for peak signal to noise ratio, and SSIM, structural similarity index. Now, again, yes, those KPIs, they had their own limitations, but then these KPIs are still in the use. I'll get to that. Why do we even have these how do I put it, subset KPIs when we have a superset in the form of VMAF, right? One VMAF score, anything between 1 to 100, is good enough to tell you what the real picture is, where you stand in terms of the audiovisual experience that you're promising to your users. But we do have many such smaller KPIs. And the reason behind it is simple, right? Whenever we have, let's say, I screwed up my VMAF, I get a score of 20. How do I figure out where I went wrong? So that is when these subset KPIs that I like to call, they work. Now, coming back to VMAF. So how does VMAF really work? So we've got the pixel neighborhood. Basically, this is the part where we talk about the target video. And then obviously we have AI models that we have been training. Now, VMAF utilizes several existing images, quality metrics, and features to derive the final score. But the main component of it is one, the visual information fidelity, VIF over here under spatial feature extraction. That is used to assess the information fidelity loss across multiple spatial scales. So we typically, let's say, we would take a frame, we would divide into 4 or maybe even 8 blocks. And these blocks are what actually make up the pixel neighborhood. And then we'd individually, try to figure out. Then there's detail loss metric, which evaluates the loss of details and identifies impairments that could distract viewers. So ideally, we're talking about what the user would focus on versus what would be a detractor for the user. Now, once we have figured it out for the target image, or not image, actually target media content, then, or video, to be keeping it very simple, then we compare it against the model that we have trained, where we have more data, where we have our reference video, a full reference video, to determine, right, how does it fare against it, right? And that is how VMAP work. And thing that I mentioned, how does it fare against it, right? That essentially is your VMAP score. Now, the thing about VMAP is, well, first of all, kudos to Netflix for doing such a great job. It's an amazing. Okay, I'll just take 1 second. So I see last slide went too fast. What was the difference between those two types? I'll quickly backtrack, and then I'll get back over here. So the difference is simple. We have got two methods, VMAP and VMOS. I haven't talked about VMOS yet. I'll do it in a minute. But VMAP is the one that uses a reference. So ideally, let's say I have a movie. Now, how do I say it's good or bad? Now, there are 2 ways to do it. I have another movie and I compare it against it, right? So based on looking at both the movies, I can figure out which one is better, which one is worse. And that is ideally what reference-based means. The second one is VMOS, where I take the movie, I break it down into 1,000 little components, right? 1,000 little KPIs. Ideally, that was the word that we would use in our software development lifecycle. So when we break it down into those KPIs, then we start measuring, right, how that particular particular KPI. For example, let's say, keep it very simple, resolution, right? A 1080p video is going to provide better experience than a 720p video. But we'll mix it up a bit. How about a 1080p video in an environment where the internet, your download speed is just, let's say, 700 kbps, not even a complete mbps, right? So in that environment, what would you prefer? And that is how we determine, without any reference videos, how a video is going to perform, what is going to be the audiovisual experience of it. So again, basic difference: to measure one, we do have a reference video, but the other, we don't have a reference video. Now, maybe there's one more question that I want to answer, and I think I should have started with that, is why even use AI over here? So for us, it's very simple, right? I can look at a video and I can let you know my experience. And that is ideally what manual testing is. But of course, going back to our first question, um, audiovisual experience, right? It's quite subjective. So this is where manual testing can sort of take a toll, because for me, what is really good, what I consider good, the other users might not, and especially my paying users might not. So this is where AI comes in. Now, why AI? And these are, by the way, a mix of AI and ML models. So why AI and not a simple function? And again, the problem, it's subjective, but also in the recent years, right? I'd say, I think it's been around a decade. CV algorithms, right? We've seen major developments in that segment. So we are able to actually, so we have got our CV algorithms, we've got our cloud. So we have abundant resources when we actually want to, analyze something using these algorithms, right? We have got the best of the best processors. So this is just a more efficient way. And the second part of it is, one being efficiency, and the second one, what if I want to do, let's say, if I want to run 1,000 sessions in the next 10 hours? I'm just not going to run it one time on one device and figure it out. So in those cases, we need automation. And when we need automation, we need frameworks like VMAF or VMOS to actually, right, execute one single test multiple times, right? This is the same thing that we do with all our testing, all our Appium or XUI testing, but just a little different, little different targets, different KPIs, and obviously different frameworks. So I think I'm good to move on VMAF, or should I just do a quick recap of it? With VMAF, we have very simple. So we've got a couple of, we train a model first. I'll just do a small recap. We train one model first, then we break down our existing video into a couple of parts, and then we compare it. And this, ideally, what this is happening, obviously, this is an oversimplification, but I want you to understand this is where the major limitations of the VMAF framework start. We have got multiple limitations in terms of codecs, in terms of the video qualities, right? Be it HDR, be it without HDR. But I won't go into that. The biggest limitation that I see in VMAF is that it works best with videos of a few seconds. So if we have any long form content, that is where we start lacking, right? Because there are things like recency and primacy, or even rebuffering events, right? Because it's a few seconds, we don't give it a lot of time to process. And obviously, because somewhere VMAP has to have those capabilities limited. It's still in development. Netflix is still working on it, and it's not Netflix alone. There are a lot of other universities that are working on it. So let's hope something good happens over here. But what is the alternative of it? I have got long form videos. For example, the earlier example that we discussed of Duolingo. If I'm sitting on a learning spree, I'm clicking multiple buttons and I'm going through multiple stages, which is multiple different animations. How do I test every? And that is where HeadSpin's video quality MOS comes in. MOS stands for Mean Optimized Score. Now, what we realized is, right, when we actually were creating this platform, when we were working on the media and entertainment segment of it, and we decided to come up with video quality MOS, is that various real world factors like device and OS specifications, network bandwidth, latency, jitter, packet losses, CDN misconfiguration, and even sometimes the mobile application client issues, right? The application itself, right? All of this influence the delivery of video content through mobile applications, right? Now, to solve for this, we came up with a comprehensive suite of reference-free quality metrics to analyze and check for things like blockiness, blurriness, brightfulness, colorfulness, exposure, flickering, freezing, frame rate drops, and buffering time, multiple other things, right? Multiple other small factors that are easy to measure. When we talk about the whole video, it becomes difficult because, again, the experiences are subjective. But for example, if I take a very tiny metric, right? For example, how many frame drops do I have, right? How many frame rate drops I've had in a, let's say, a 5-minute video. That alone can help me determine some part of the experience. And when you mix it with multiple other such factors, that is when we have VMOS. Now, today at HeadSpin, we are doing both the things, right? VMAP has its benefits. VMOS has its benefits, of course. We created VMOS, and so we thought, let's not miss, let's not ignore one. Let's use the advantages of both, and we can see. So ideally, what happens is whenever you are executing a test on the HeadSpin platform, we first check for the basic KPIs, right? Blurriness, blockiness, brightness. Then we check for frame rate drops, loading, buffering time, and then we have our VMAF models on top of it, and we have our VMOS models on top of it, which analyzes both of the score. And all of these scores, all of these KPIs that we are gathering, they can be seen in something. We call this the waterfall UI. So if I just want you to pay quick attention to this particular part where I can see the VMOS score for every second of this video being played. I can see the screen change, I can see the colorfulness, I can see the contrast. This is a screenshot, otherwise I would have scrolled and there would have been so many other KPIs. So we are gathering a second by second analysis of a particular video across so many other metrics. And together, these metrics, they make up the video quality MOS. That's the MOS score. And these are the things that we are actually analyzing audiovisual experiences today. So yeah, that is all I wanted to talk about today. But yeah, if any of you have any questions, please feel free to drop it in the chat or the Q&A section. Would be happy to answer. So we have a question, how do we choose between VMAF and VMOS? Okay, that's a good question. More context, our client's application has a lot of animations and audio feedback. So it depends. It depends. First of all, the way I think of it is, because I do this for a lot of our clients as well, is how easy it is to implement and what is going to be the impact of it. So for example, if I talk about, I'll just quickly scroll back. If I talk about VMOS specifically, there hasn't been a lot of, there are sure other tools in the market, but when it comes to the most developed one and the most accurate, I like to believe it's HeadSpin. Whereas VMAF, it's a completely open source framework. Now, the thing with VMOS is we have it on a cloud platform already. So implementing VMOS on your media applications or on any applications like that, it's very easy. But on the other hand, with VMAF, while it may take some effort, it may, again, the repository is available on GitHub. I would like to share the link with you somewhere, right? And the articles as well, maybe in a follow-up email for everyone later. But yeah, Ideally, again, depending upon what kind of videos, what kind of, let's say, how long your content goes on for, we can actually decide whether it is to be VMAP or VMOS. But we have done multiple such implementations, and what we have seen is having a mix of both is equally important. Because again, one thing about VMOS is, right, we capture the entire session, right? That is why we have these annotations again. They are all automated, but for VMAP, it cannot go on for long. But then again, if we have something very short, why not go for it, right? I hope that answered your question. Let me know if it didn't. Second question, do I have something? How do you measure colorfulness? So again, we do have OpenCV. We have CV based, not OpenCV, of course. We did our own development. So we have CV based algorithms to do that. And obviously based on, it has been trained on different colors, and that is how we figure out whether something can be considered colorful or not. Again, individually, I'd not focus too much on that particular KPI, but yes, together with contrast, with brightness, with blockiness and everything, it helps determine, right, how the experience actually is. Which KPI should we use to measure AV experience? So again, VMAP and VMOS, these are both frameworks, of course, but also these are the KPIs. One thing I forgot to mention, while VMAP, it has a rating of 1 to 100, so you can get a score from score out of 100 to determine the experience. For VMOS at HeadSpin, we have it. We have percentage basis that you can see over here on the screenshot. But the end of the day, the rating is something out of 5. So these are both KPIs. But again, if I talk about the subset KPIs that I mentioned earlier that our models actually use, so there can be tons of things. For example, distortion indicators, delay, brightness, contrast, PSNR, the one we talked about earlier that Netflix tried to get rid of, not get rid of, but improve upon. So we still measure that. Then there's blurriness, blockiness, frame skips and freezes. Those are the ones I find a little bit interesting. Again, great for gaming and entertainment kind of media. Then there's effect frame rate. And also, it's not limited to just video. Again, audiovisual experience, right? Audio is included too. So there's MOS LQ0, there's R factor, min, average, max delay, jitter, attenuation, degradation, all sorts of degradation, right? Speech, pause, signal to noise ratio, all of those things included. And that is what makes up these mega scores. Let's put it that way. I hope that answered that question. So VMAF is for short videos. Not necessarily, no. Again, Netflix, they have long form videos, but it depends upon the scope of your testing. So VMAF can only support, let's say, a few seconds at max, 4 to 5 seconds. So in those cases, yes, VMAF is helpful. But if you're planning to test the entire thing, if you're planning to, for example, maybe I'll share an example we did for a recent client of ours. It's a video conferencing tool, and they wanted to check the entire thing. So that is something not possible with VMAF. VMAF can determine how your media content or how the application with the media content is performing for those split few seconds. But for the entire experience, because let's say we are having this Zoom webinar, which is going for I think a little over 30 minutes now. For the entire experience, how has it been? So for that to figure out, I think VMOS is much more helpful. So if you already have a robust infra like Netflix, maybe VMAF is the best one, and they are doing it. So who am I to comment? But then again, for example, we work with a lot of telco clients. For them, VMOS has been a little more dominant. How much time and effort does it take to set up testing environments with these AI? So I think, okay, setting up these frameworks. Yes, that was one of the key factors while deciding which one to go for, while I say go for both. If you're implementing it in-house in your own server, in that case, VMAP obviously is going to take more time. you have to do the development, you have to do the heavy lifting upfront. But if you're going with something like VMOS, be it HeadSpins or any other tool in the market, we've already done the development for you. We have already hosted it on the cloud. So it's almost no effort. Of course, you have to execute that test, you have to execute that session. So maybe writing that Appium code where that video or those animations, they are being run. So that is the only effort that it will take. And I think this is the last question. Thanks for showing the architecture, etc. But I'm still not sure how exactly is the testing done. Maybe a sample demo using HeadSpin would be very helpful next time to visualize. 100%, I agree. I should have maybe done a demo. Unfortunately, I don't have a session ready with me, so I cannot do a demo right now. But Jeet, how about this? Maybe we reach out to you. I'm sure we have your email ID when you registered. So I think I'll reach out to you and schedule that demo for you. But to answer your question very simply, how is the testing done? It's very simple, right? You run the test, right? Let's say it's a simple test session where multiple things are being executed, multiple user journeys are being executed, and majority of those user journeys include some form of media content, some form of video, some form of animation, or even maybe some form of engaging images, right? Anything. Now, after that session, what you'd like to figure out is what is the VMOS score of it, or if it's purely a video, what is the VMAP score of it? And it's easy to say if your VMAP score, let's say, is something over 50, maybe something like 60, 70, your test has passed, right? Because again, the experience that the user would perceive is on a higher level. Similarly, for VMOS, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if it's a 5, it's amazing. If it's a 1, then we need to worry. Then we need to figure it out. Is it actually the animation content, right? That is where the RCA part of things would kick in, whether it's the content itself, or whether it's the network, whether it's the application, whether it's the device. We'll figure that out. And of course, again, if you're when I'll do the demo, right? Maybe if we do it. Also, if there's anyone else who'd like to see a demo, please let us know. Maybe we can do another webinar if we have more, or we can reach out to you individually. So we'll show you, right, how do we do the RCA. You can see these issue cards, right? They also help you figure it out, right, what to do. So yeah, that is it. Any more questions? Oh, okay. A chat from Mohammed. Yup, sure. We will reach out to you for the demo as well. Awesome. If there's no more questions, I'll definitely reach out to you guys for the demo. But yeah, if there are no more questions, I think we can stop the session right now. I'll give you back a few minutes. It's already nighttime over here. So thank you so much for attending this session. This is a topic that I've been working a lot on, right? We internally are working on the product. So would love to talk about it in more detail, maybe have some advanced sessions where we actually run these tests, where we actually run an Appium code and show you within the webinar itself, how does it look like, right? It'll be amazing to do. Maybe yeah, the part 2 of this particular session, I think we'll focus more on the demo. But yeah, for now, for the individual requests, I'll definitely reach out to you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a good night. Bye-bye.